Hello everyone, I hope you are doing well with your UPSC Mains 2023 prep. Even though you haven't cleared this year's examination, the probability of you clearing the examination next year is high if you're keeping your efforts sustained. So let's look at a few of the important areas that you need to concentrate on art and culture topic of paper 1 in your UPSC Mains. The tricky part with the mains examination in UPSC is you need to know what are the areas that you need to skip rather than concentrate on instead of reading blindly each and every topic in the given syllabus. So these are actually the high priority areas that you need to concentrate on. In fact, these are the only areas that you need to concentrate on for your UPSC mains examination. If you have looked the past UPSC mains papers, you can see that approximately every year you can find at least 3 questions from art and culture. That is, more or less, it will be carrying marks of 30 marks. So that amounts to 12% of your total paper 1 marks. So if you have actually planned it well, tackling the art and culture part in the examination is actually quite easy. It is not as tough as you think it might be. So coming to the actual part of this video of discussing where are the areas that you need to concentrate on. The first one is architecture. So whenever you're looking at architecture, you need to look it to a only single dimension. Take architecture of any one particular period and see how it is reflecting the socio-economic conditions of that particular time period. That's it. You need not do nothing more, nothing less than that. And coming to the second part is your sculpture. There are only 3 schools that you need to concentrate on the sculpture. One is your Gandhara, and another one is Mathura, and finally Amravati. Concentrate on what are the peculiar characteristics of each of these particular schools. And the third one is cultural heritage of different dynasties. So in this particular part, you need to concentrate on the contribution of each and every individual dynasty, or say the prominent dynasty's cultural contribution to the overall Indian culture. And the fourth part that you need to concentrate on the literature part. This is also the same as the other 3 topics, where you need to look at specific contribution of particular, say for example, you have Persian literary sources. So you need to say what are the cultural or literary contributions of Persian literature to the overall Indian culture. And finally, we'll be seeing few topics in the miscellaneous parts where it will be huge bounces for anyone who had prepared for this examination. These miscellaneous topics are something like, even though you have prepared for this examination for 10 years, still it will be difficult for you to tackle. But it is always good that you guess few topics before going to the examination hall, and you have 5 points for each of those topics so that they come handy in the examination hall. So actually, let us see what are the previous year questions from these particular topics that had appeared in the UPSC examination. The first one, as I have told, this topic is architecture. Now look at the first question. He's specifically asking about how medieval Indian temple sculptures reflect the social life of the particular time period. And the second one, he's concentrating on how the rock cut architecture of India is acting as a source of knowledge of early Indian art and history. And the third one is how Indian philosophy and tradition had contributed for shaping of Indian monuments and their art. And finally, the fourth question is how Mesolithic rock cut architecture is comparable to the modern painting. If you have observed in all these 4 questions, the one common thread that runs across all these questions is that he is specifically concentrating on architecture of any particular time period, and he is correlating with the with the dimension of how it is actually reflecting the social or political or economic conditions of that particular time period. So what are the probable topics that you might expect in the future from this particular area? The first one is Buddhist and Jain architecture, how they reflect the ideals of these particular religions, or how they reflect the socio-economic conditions of particular time period in the time period in which they have thrived. And the second one is medieval Indian architecture. He might be asking, if you have observed or read medieval Indian history briefly, like you can see a lot of areas where there will be a fusion of Indian architecture with the architecture of foreign elements. That is, you can prominently see the evolution of Indo-Islamic architecture. So he might be asking you how Indo-Islamic architecture represents the socio-cultural conditions of that particular time period. So this is how you need to deal with this particular topic. And also mind you that you need to prepare answers for all these 4 questions too before going to the examination hall. And the next topic is sculpture. As we have discussed, there are only 3 schools that you need to concentrate on for the sculpture part. See, in the first question, he had asked, what are the Central Asian, Greco and Bactrian elements in the Gandhara art? As we have known, Gandhara art is a fusion. Gandhara is a place situated near the Afghanistan area, so obviously it is a fusion of Indian as well as certain elements from Central Asia and Bactrian elements. So you need to concentrate on what are the peculiar characteristics of each and every school that are prominent in the sculpture. And the second question that he had asked is Buddhist stupa art. So how Buddhist stupa art is reflecting the Buddhist ideals, against the same concept. And finally the third question is Gandhara sculpture. So again he's asking Gandhara sculpture, how it was influenced by the foreign elements. So what you need to, I'm reiterating that what you need to look at these 3 schools is that see what are the specific characteristics or the peculiar characteristics belong to each of these schools. That's it, right? And the next part is cultural heritage and dynasties. Now let us see all the 3 questions, then we'll be coming to what your strategy should be for this particular topic. The first question is discuss the main contributions of Guptan period and Chola period to Indian heritage and culture. And the second one is he's asking, Guptan numismatic art is not at all noticeable, like the level of excellence in the of Guptan numismatic art is not at all noticeable in later times. So he's asking what makes Guptan numismatic art stand out when you're comparing it to the time periods of later time periods. So he's specifically asking on the Guptan numismatic art. And the third one is Chola architecture. Again, he's specifically asking architecture or cultural contribution of one particular dynasty. If you have seen all these 3 questions, it is the same thing again, where he's asking the cultural contribution of a particular dynasty. He had asked about Guptan period, he had asked about Cholan period, he had asked about again Guptan, again Cholan. So in the similar manner, you need to make notes for these set of popular dynasties too. The first one is Pallavas, Rashtrakutas, Mauryans and Vijayanagara. See what are the specific contribution of these popular dynasties to the Indian art, architecture as well as literature. Once you're done with these popular dynasties, this particular topic is done once and for all. And the next part is literature. You might be seeing that literature topic is something that you can expect not only in your mains examination. Each and every year, at least even in the prelims examination, you can find at least 2 questions, either from it is ancient India or from medieval India or from at least from modern India. You can expect questions from literature topic. The best part of this literature topic is that so far he never repeated any particular topics from this literature. First he asked about Sangam literature, and then he asked about Krishnadeva Raya's time period literature. Then he asked about Chinese and Arab travelers' contribution to how did they help in the construction of Indian history. And then he asked about Persian literary sources, and then he asked about Bhakti literature. So what are the future probable topics that you can expect from this particular area is that Vedic literature. How Vedic literature reflected the socio-economic conditions of the time period. Again, it is the same template. And the next one is Buddhism and Jainism. So how Buddhism and Jainism literature contributed to the growth of Indian literature. And finally, the growth of regional literature. How did the regional literature evolve, departing from the dominant Sanskrit of the time period. Specifically, this particular trend happens during the time period of your medieval India. And coming to the last topic, this particular question is something that stands out from rest of the topics because it is very generic in nature. He simply asks about, what is the need or necessity of protecting Indian heritage. He's simply asking about what is the significance of protecting Indian heritage. So make a standard answer for this particular question too and move on. And the final and the tricky part, as I've discussed with you in the earlier part also, is about miscellaneous topics. In this particular, these are the set of topics which you can't expect even after reading UPSC examination, or let alone reading art and culture for 10 years, because they are too diverse in nature for you to expect. So it is just your pure talent where you can connect the dots in the examination hall, but you, at the end of the day, you need to write and you need to attempt question from these areas also. So I'm expecting a topic for this year is Yaksha and Yakshini. So this is how you deal with the art and culture part for your UPSC mains examination.